Monday, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network probably brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk, and certainly I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday to you all. Obviously, a jam-packed show here. We always appreciate you taking a few seconds to like, comment, and share today's episode and all of our programming here at Jersey First. Of course, like, comment, and share. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, like the show. Make sure you follow the program on Instagram and X and also on YouTube. And of course, if you subscribe on Spotify or SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts, check out Real Talk with Fernando Uribe anywhere at any time. And of course, folks, always leading the way here at Jersey First, being your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's what we do here, folks, at Jersey First, and more specifically with Fernando Uribe. Brand new episodes air live every Monday here on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, a jam-packed show today. Obviously, a lot to talk about with some bad actors right now in our political climate, but specifically, obviously, we see that there's always some outrage, whether something's going on, whether it's on Old King's Day or anything else. I'll let you know why the hypocrisy is kind of rich in today's political climate. More on that later during Final Thoughts. Of course, also, folks, a special comment during the broadcast, as you can see there, that I'm wearing. Certainly here, very proud to participate in the Act Now Foundation 5K walk for dementia and Alzheimer's awareness. A little bit more later as to why raising awareness for these dreaded diseases is so important in our community. Of course, shout out to everybody at the Act Now Foundation. Of course, also want to remind everyone that June is Men's National Mental Health Awareness Month and why it's so important during the month of June to talk about that. And of course, folks, you can see it behind me. My voice is still recovering from Saturday night, of course, from the New York Knicks and their victory, first championship in 53 years. But I got some exclusives this week here, and why not? Let me talk to one of the very accessible members of the House of Representatives. He is the distinguished rep in the 5th Congressional District, and he's a fan of the show. I'm happy to have him on. Folks, he's the Honorable Josh Gottheimer, joins us live on Real Talk. Representative, how are you? Welcome.
Hi, Fernando. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Let's get right to it. I know you've been very active, and I just want to pick your brain about this because you're one of the more vocal Democrats, Representative, when it comes to denouncing anti-Semitism within the party and within sort of the political climate we're living in. But it seems like some within the Democrat Party aren't as willing to do it as you are when it comes to very loud voices on the left, like influencer and podcaster Hassan Piker and others that are sort of making their way into the Democrat Party. What concerns you the most about the rhetoric by him and others right now?
Well, first of all, thank you again for having me. Very grateful. Good to see you. You know what? Listen, if you ask me to try to explain this, I'm not sure I have a good answer for you. But I know what's going on right now. We see really hate on both sides kind of rearing its head and extremism. And, I think that tends to attract a lot of clicks. And so you see it from a lot of these streamers now, like Hassan Piker, who I'm sure you've seen his stream. He literally just sits there and says whatever crazy thing comes to his mind. And if it gets him more views, he's willing to say it. And one of his great targets has been the Jewish community. He's called Jews dirty pigs and bloodthirsty pigs, and called Orthodox Jews inbred. So, I think that he thinks this is going to attract more clicks. By the way, same way that Candace Owens on the right does the same sort of thing on her show. And all I know is in the end, it divides us up more as a country. It peddles hatred. It leads to more anti-Semitism. And there's also a lot of, as you probably know, a lot of anti-American hatred buried in there as well. Piker went after and said that America was to blame for 9/11. Right. So you're seeing a lot of mix of this anti-American, socialist, anti-Semitic commentary all mixed together.
But Representative, in fairness, though, there are some within, again, your party, because, again, there are Dems in the House, for example, nearby in CD 11, like the newly elected Analia Mejia. We have a primary candidate winner in CD 12, I think, with Adam Hamaway. Are you concerned at all that potentially these could be colleagues in the House within the Democrat Party in the caucus that have very hostile views towards Israel?
Well, I'm concerned with anyone who takes and goes after a core and key ally like Israel that's critical to protecting America's national security. We see it front page right now, with the situation, the conflict in Iran, who is one of our top adversaries in the world. the regime there, who've attacked Americans, said that, as, in their banner, death to America and death to the Jews. But this is a regime that for decades now has targeted Americans, killed Americans, attacked our bases, attacked our allies, supported terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. They've had a nuclear program, a ballistic missile program, a drone program, and again, gone after Americans. So, I'm concerned when anyone, I don't care which party they're part of, peddles in supporting those who seek to do us harm. And obviously, listen, there's some of my colleagues now that I'd really like to get some more understanding and some answers on some of their comments and associations.
Representative, I mean, again, obviously the midterms are coming. I know Democrats feel like, using a sports term here, the wind is to their back, as we all know that during a lot of midterms, the opposing party tends to have a really good, not even a puncher's chance, a really good chance of winning the majority in the House. I know your district is fairly blue. I know you're one of the more accessible representatives in the House here in New Jersey, especially in your district, though. How do you feel about your body of work thus far in seeking another term in the 5th Congressional District?
I feel great about it. Listen, and I appreciate what you said because, I feel like the number one job of somebody who does what I do is to be a representative, to fight hard for the people that you represent, right? And I'm very proud in Northern New Jersey to represent about 850,000 people. And I feel like whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, my job is to get your back and to do everything we can to lower costs and make life more affordable for you, get taxes down, make sure you're safe, which is why I always support law enforcement, first responders. Last week, we were able to claw back from Washington $8.5 million to make sure that our local cops are able to, have the resources they need to protect everyone during the World Cup, all the visitors, all people from Jersey, all the teams coming in. So we're able to do that. And, when I fought for things like helping get the infrastructure bill done and the Gateway Train Tunnel, which is getting built now, get built, whether I'm helping veterans or whatever the issue is that I'm fighting to help people on, I don't worry about what politics you are. I worry about making sure you live here. My job is to fight for you and to fight hard for you. And I think that's the job. And I really make sure that I'm out there and accessible to everybody. And I may not always agree. You may not always agree with me. That's okay. But I'm going to be very clear with you about, why I think it's best for us.
Representative, I've always looked at you as a very center-left Democrat. Obviously, that's a staunch contrast to many nearby, whether here in Hudson County, where I live in CD8. My representative is Rob Menendez, obviously nearby. As I mentioned, we have Annalily Mejia, we have Nellie Poe, we have Monica MacGyver, as you go a little further south. How do you find a way to coexist with members of the party within the House that, to be fair, hold very different views from you, whether it's about spending, whether it's about infrastructure, or as I mentioned, even about immigration?
Well, listen, I think there's things I agree with my colleagues on. There's times I disagree. What I have found, Fernando, what I found most useful, actually, whether it's in my own delegation in Jersey or with other people in the party or in the Republican Party, you got to sit down and talk to folks, right? The most important thing you have to do is actually engage. And, you're going to find places where you agree. There's going to be places you disagree. But the question is, are you willing to work with people and to get something done? Now, listen, some of my colleagues have a viewpoint of like, listen, if I don't get everything I want, I'm walking away. I'm not interested. I just think that's not the way to govern. If you walked in my office, you would see a bunch of bills on the wall. Some of them that I got signed under, passed into law under Donald Trump, the first term, this term, some under Joe Biden. And my view is like, again, do my job, and to get legislation passed, you actually have to work with other people, right? This is the thing you learn kind of in 3rd grade or 5th grade.
Yeah.
To get a bill into law, you got to get it out of the House, the United States Senate, and to the president's desk. And you're going to have to work with other people to do that, even if they don't always agree with you. So, I've spent a lot of time developing relationships with Republicans, not just Democrats, working across the aisle. And because I've developed those relationships, I've been able to actually legislate. Now, I scream and yell less than some of my colleagues do, and so I don't tweet nasty things against people all the time like some of my colleagues do, but I found what's most important is, can you build those relationships to get stuff done, just like we all do in our lives, right? Whether that's whoever you're married to, or your partner is, or in your business, your business partner or someone at work. Like you can't just walk into the office and scream and yell at the other person and think you're going to be able to get anything done. You actually have to talk to them, and more importantly, listen to what's most important to them, so you can find a way forward.
Speaking about listening, obviously your district is very diverse along socioeconomic lines. You have some very affluent neighborhoods in the 5th Congressional District, and some working class. What's been the feedback when it comes to constituent services and talking to residents? Because again, it's a very diverse district.
And by the way, I also represent a bunch of Sussex County, which is beautiful. Up by Vernon, New Jersey. Those of you who are watching who've ever been skiing up there, and Mountain Creek is a big ski resort there. We've got the Appalachian Trail. We've got beautiful farms, and you got cows, you got specialty crops, and then I got Hackensack, New Jersey, and Paramus. Some big retail capitals. So we got a little bit of everything, and plenty of suburbs. It's really, to your point, which is a really good question you're asking. You kind of have to be able to do everything from milk a cow and understand what's going on in dairy right now, and dairy prices, which are depressed and have been for a long time. And we're also understanding urban issues like in Hackensack that affect people. And that's what makes the job so interesting every day, right? There's no two days are alike. This weekend, by the way, I had this incredible honor of recognizing the 30 newest members of our armed services and who are going to the academies next year, because that's part of what we get to do in Congress. Whether you're talking about West Point, going to represent us, or the Air Force, or Naval Academy, or Merchant Marine, they get nominated. You can't believe how amazing these young people are and what they've done to get accepted into our service academies. And you see that and you realize nothing to worry about in our future. We're going to be okay in their hands.
Absolutely. Representative, real quick here, I noticed one of the bills you introduced, 8895, really interesting, really caught my eye, about No Rigged Grocery Prices Act. Why is that so significant right now, even as inflation is going down a little bit, some costs are going down, but why did this really stand out for you, though?
Great question. So I serve on the Financial Services Committee, on the Intelligence Committee, which oversees our intelligence systems and the agencies, and then I was recently appointed to co-chair the AI Commission. And this last one, so all of these committees give me a unique perspective. One of the things I'm very worried about, when people are facing such high grocery prices and food prices, what people are dealing with right now in these last couple of years, with AI, which has huge potential to do great things, but you also have to look at where the challenges are. One of the challenges is, say you and I both walk into the grocery store at the same time, and they know that you buy bananas every week, right? No matter what, you walk into the grocery store, it knows you buy bananas. And the AI figures it out. They know your face, or they know, so that you walk in, they know who you are. And then they go, oh, since he's always willing to buy bananas, I bet I could get him to pay a little bit more than the person who just walked in, who never buys bananas. Maybe if I lower the price a little bit, that person will buy bananas. And you actually go to the shelf, and there's a digital price tag. And as you walk up, one price would pop up. As I walk up, another price pops up. Now, Instacart, which is a delivery system at home, was doing this. And they got caught for it and backed off, got in trouble and backed off. But it's not hard to imagine our grocery stores with this technology being able to do just that, to charge you more because they know you like a product, or they saw you surfing at home for a recipe and says, oh, he definitely needs to get vanilla extract. Let's charge him more for that vanilla extract when he goes into the store, right? And that's the kind of stuff you got to be worried about, where they're actually surveilling your price, surveilling you, and charging you more based on prices. And I say you can't do that.
I can certainly applaud that, as well as the 8250. That also caught my attention in terms of the Parents Decide Act. And you mentioned before, obviously, influencers online, whether on the right or the left, have significant influence over not just adults, but even kids watching content. And
totally.
And when you see toxic people like Hassan Piker and other really left-wing radical, influencers being on there, but what does the Parents Decide Act do that maybe other legislation doesn't?
First of all, I'm really glad you bring up this idea that you've got so much disinformation now online.
Not on this show.
Not on
this show. Not on
your show.
Yeah.
But
Thank
you. But because listen, you got China, Iran, Russia, North Korea pumping disinformation into our country and using our platforms like TikTok and others to be able to push out certain disinformation to influence people in a negative way and to divide us up as a country, right? And make us more partisan so that we can't get stuff done. And that's very intentional. So I worry a lot about, you got young people online who especially when they're, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, can be really negatively influenced by what they're seeing and disinformation being pumped at them, or seeing content they shouldn't see that's anti-American or hate-filled, like what whoever hate that they're going after, whether it's racist or anti-Semitic or whatever it is. And one of the things I want to make sure of is that with AI and social media, that young people are not delivered content they shouldn't be delivered, and that parents get to make that decision. So what this will do is say, when you set up a phone, say you set up a phone for your kid, get that phone out of the box. You'll be able to actually say to the phone, the person using this phone is 13 years old, right? So make sure that child doesn't get apps to download or content that he or she shouldn't get because they're 13 years old. Does that make sense? So then actually they won't get apps that are not age appropriate. They won't get content that's not age appropriate. The stuff that's coming in to them will be scaled back because it's not age appropriate. And because of AI, we're able to really suss this out and target the information in a smarter way that parents decide is best for their kids.
Representative, another bill that caught my eye was the Energy Affordability and Reliability Act. And I know that it's a bipartisan measure to establish an Office of Energy Affordability. Again, just for our audience's educational purposes, isn't that more sort of a statewide issue? Because, for example, here in New Jersey, as we all know, Governor Sherrill should be focusing on energy costs and prices, and she's not. But is this more a state issue, or what can be done at the federal level?
Well, actually, one of the biggest problems we have on energy, and you know this because you live in Jersey, these energy bills have been killing you.
Yeah.
Right? Energy bills are up 45% or so in the last 2 years, which is brutal for people. No matter who you are, it's brutal.
Yeah.
And if you're on a fixed income, it's particularly brutal because suddenly your energy bills skyrocket. One of the problems we've had is we've not added enough energy supply to the grid over the last decade in New Jersey. We've actually, believe it or not, taken off about 1.5 million homes worth of energy but through natural gas and nuclear over the last decade. So taking energy off the grid. We used to be a net exporter to other states of energy. Now we're a net importer. What's that meant for you? Less supply, higher demand. With AI and everything else we use electronics, that means your prices have gone up significantly. We got to add more supply. That's where the federal government comes in. We need to make it easier to be able to permit new projects so that we can get more supply on and make it easier for states and regions to share that supply in the grid, right? To get onto the grid, to get the energy onto the grid, and to share as a country on the grid so we can share our supply. Right now, it's very difficult to add new supply. It's very difficult to share supply across states. And that's where the federal government, of course, because it's interstate, that's where it comes in. And I want to make it easier to permit new projects so we can get more supply up and running to get it better. And by the way, we've done a terrible job in our state of managing supply and demand, and it's meant higher prices for people who are watching this.
Representative, just to make you laugh, a lot of Democrat friends of mine saw the promo for today and said, "Oh, Fernando, you must be in your glory. Talk to a fellow Republican." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Yeah, Josh Gottheimer." I said, first of all, just because you're very far left doesn't mean that he's a Republican. But I'm sure you hear these chirping and these, these sort of comments at you, Representative. How do you want to answer those within your party? I know you're a dedicated Democrat. You've run consistently on that record. But when you hear maybe you're not as liberal or progressive as others within the Democrat Party, what's your answer to people that constantly sort of maybe nitpick about your allegiances or where your platform is, Representative?
Well, first of all, I think most people I consider myself a common sense Democrat and somebody who solves problems. And it's unfortunate these days that people, if you work across the aisle to get stuff done, if you take a more reasonable approach, they attack you for not being, their kind of Democrat. So first of all, for like Mindami and those folks, Mindami is a socialist, an admitted socialist, right? And we've got others who run as these Democratic socialists, and they're socialists I don't consider them Democrats. So, they're not in the Democratic Party as far as I'm concerned. People like Bernie Sanders, he's not a Democrat, he's a socialist, right? And by the way, an admitted Democratic socialist, so he would say he would admit to that. In fact, he doesn't register as a Democrat. He runs as he's an independent, and is a socialist, not a Democrat. So, I'd say, I'm very proud of the kind of Democrat I am. I think we need a party that's open to everybody, but I also think we need a party that's open to every Democrat. And I think we need to be very clear that, it's not a bad thing to be supportive of, to be a capitalist and want people to be successful, to make sure we protect our communities and support our first responders and law enforcement, firefighters and EMTs, to support our veterans and to really do everything we can to make life more affordable here in Jersey, to get costs down, taxes down, those utility bills down, your health care costs down. I'm very focused on all these things to make, and childcare costs, to make life more affordable for people. And I think that's actually where people are. I was with this 102-year-old veteran today, who was just his birthday, 102 years old. Wow. This guy, you would have been blown away by this guy. And he was just so, I couldn't believe how much energy he had, being 102 years old. And, and he looked at me and just such pride about our country, and 250 years old, and was talking about celebrating and how excited he was to live in our country and to have served. And that's the kind of, spirit we need more of. Realize we're all in this together. We live in the greatest country in the world, and to be proud of it. And that's why I'm very proud to do what I do.
Representative, I know that obviously, the way you believe in bipartisanship, and that's important. Absolutely. I did see you walking with members of the House in your party at Delaney Hall. There's been a lot of different chatter about the Democrat Party, where you stand. You voted for the Laken-Riley Act. Some Democrats have, chastised you for that. What's fact and what's fiction about the Laken-Riley Act, and really about immigration reform, or how we feel about enforcing immigration laws, Representative?
Well, first of all, I've said and I've been very clear. I think there's certain reforms when it comes to ICE that we need. There's certain reforms that we need about our immigration system. Sure. Clearly, it's not working the way it should be. We are a nation of immigrants, so I'm very proud of that. It's besides the Native Americans, everyone else came here, and including my great grandparents and my wife's grandparents, who were Holocaust survivors. And I want everyone to be able to live the American dream if they come here the right way. And right now, what's unfortunate is there's been this perception that, and I don't know how this happened, that immigrants, for a lot of people, that we don't want to have immigrants in our country. And I think that's wrong. We just want to make sure we have, and this is what I've been working on, you want to have the right reform to do this the right way. And one of our failures in our system, and part of what I saw at Delaney, is you have a lot of people, we're not processing, people come here, we're not processing people fast enough. You have people who are trying to come the right way and do the right thing. It's not working. So there's a lot of work we've got to do. What I've worked in a bipartisan way for years now is actually having comprehensive immigration reform. I've also said that people who shouldn't be here, who have broken the law, who are terrorists, they shouldn't be in our country. And if you come here, you break the law and you commit felonies, you shouldn't be in our country. I know some people don't agree with me on that, and that's okay. That's just a different perspective. But, I also, when I was at Delaney, and one of the things I was very proud of, we met this young woman who is a dreamer, who came here when she was a baby. And she lives not far from the detention center in Delaney. She is a high school senior, and she just had a couple months left, and she got picked up by ICE, and she was sitting in the facility for 2 months. And she was amazing. But Fernando, if you met her, you'd be blown away by her. She said she initially wanted to be a doctor, and now she wants to be a lawyer. And she was translating for everybody in the facility, and so sweet and smart and kind. And I'm thinking to myself, why is she here? And she wanted to do work. She just wanted to graduate. She's a dreamer. She came here as a kid. She's been here her whole life. And one of her parents, I think, is a citizen. And anyway, we were able as a delegation to work it out, and she's out now. And but like some of the people I met there, you said, they shouldn't be sitting here. And And obviously other people who are criminals, obviously, and have committed crimes, well, they shouldn't be out,
Well, Representative, you're on the go. I appreciate a few minutes of your time. I appreciate your faith in my brand of journalism. I always appreciate our rapport. I'll give you the last word here tonight.
No, I just want to say thanks for having me, and thanks for being engaged and talking about these topics. Not everyone's going to agree all the time, but we got to have these conversations and do it like you do, with civility, right? You want to have a good, constructive conversation. That's a good thing, and that's what our country is about, right? To actually have a conversation, and then we got to get stuff done. And people should stop yelling and screaming at each other. And I think we'd all be better off if we, let's not forget our enemy is the government of China and the government of Iran, not one another. I think that's not, as we celebrate 250 here,
right.
Let's not forget that. It's really important that we remember how lucky we are and blessed we are to live here.
That's fair to say. And listen, again, Representative, I appreciate your time. Folks, he's CD5 Representative Josh Gottheimer. All right, guys, today, we'll talk to you over the summer again, Representative. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Take care.
Take care. Folks, good stuff there with Representative Josh Gottheimer out of the 5th Congressional District. Always on the go. Very busy. I appreciate a few minutes of his time. I think I went a little bit over. My sincerest apologies. But again, a lot to talk about with one of the more visible members of the House of Representatives, specifically here in New Jersey. And again, I didn't have a chance to mention it during the broadcast. Again, minutes were limited. But as I alluded to during the interview with the representative, obviously a very diverse district here nearby in the 5th Congressional District, just to let you know. It's comprised of 14 municipalities in Sussex County, which include Andover, Branchville, Frankfort, Franklin, Hamburg, Hampton Township, Hardiston, Lafayette, Montague, Newton, Sandyston, Sussex, Vernon, and also Wantage. Very, very, socioeconomically diverse municipalities obviously in Sussex County. We move on to Passaic County, which is also part of the 5th Congressional District. It includes Bloomingdale, Ringwood, Wanacue, and West Milford. And subsequently, the majority of the district is comprised of Bergen County with, check this out, 47 municipalities in Bergen County in the 5th Congressional District. Just bear with me. Just want to make sure I let everyone know in the audience how large this district is along municipality-wise. So it includes towns like Allendale, Alpine, Bergenfield, Bogota, Closter, Cresskill, Demarest, Dumont, Emerson, Inglewood Cliffs, Fairlawn, Fort Lee, Glenrock, Hackensack, Harrington Park, Haworth, Hillsdale, Hohokus, Leonia, Mawa, Maywood, Midland Park, Montvale, New Milford, Northvale, Norwood, Otapan, Oradell, Palisades Park, Paramus, Park Ridge, Ramsey, Richfield Park, Ridgewood, River Edge, Rivervale, Rockley, Saddle River, Teaneck, Tenafly, Upper Saddle River, Waldwick, Washington Township, Westwood, Woodcliff Lake, and in Wyckoff. So a very large district, folks. Obviously, an enormous concentration within Bergen County. Some of my favorite towns in New Jersey are there in Bergen County. A lot of great fine dining in those municipalities, including Inglewood, as well as Teaneck, and obviously all those good parts there in Bergen County. So I appreciate the representative joining me today. Obviously, I know he's always on the go, had some limited time. I do appreciate the good work his press secretary did to make this episode possible. And certainly, folks, during the midterms, it's important to talk to incumbent members of the House of Representatives, and we'll see what happens subsequently 6 months from now when the House and the Senate are up for grabs. Again, all 435 House seats are up for grabs, and certainly a good portion of Senate seats are up for grabs this November. But certainly here in New Jersey, folks, a representative in the House that is, quite frankly, very different than some of the far left members of the House, as we all know, nearby in CD 11 with Ana Lucia Mejia, potentially in CD 12 with Adam Hamaway, who has some very questionable ties that he's yet to answer for. So certainly those are always of a concern. Obviously, Nellie Poe in the 9th Congressional District, as well as Lamonica MacGyver in the 10th Congressional District, and of course, all the way down in CD 6 with Frank Pallone. Very, very left-wing and radical members of the Democrat Party. They're sort of scattered throughout the state of New Jersey, but not in the 5th Congressional District. And again, I do appreciate the representative's time today. And really, folks, got a lot of questions in there. Certainly, I will make it a point to get the representative back on sometime during the summer, maybe during summer break, and we can get a little more in depth. But certainly, I think the representative made his opinions known about far left radicals like Hassan Piker. And I get it, there's an audience for that, just like there's an audience with right wing podcasters here on this show, folks. And again, I appreciate the representative's kind words here about my brand of opinion journalism, but certainly you're not going to get anything radical on this program. I'm just going to talk about facts. And again, I'm always here to inform, to enlighten, and at times even irritate some of my viewers. That's okay. That's what we're here for on Jersey First TV. So again, I appreciate CD5 Representative Josh Gottheimer for a few minutes today here on Real Talk, and we'll make sure to get him back during the summer here on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, it's 5 o'clock right here on the East Coast, and it's time for final thoughts. And ladies and gentlemen, I've talked about it on this show repeatedly. There is no shortage of bad actors in our political climate, especially here in New Jersey. And of course, you can check out the collage behind me, which again, I like to update regularly. Whether it includes bad actors in journalism, we all know, Prince Valium over there, the editor-in-chief of Insider NJ, Max Pizarro, obviously other useless journalists like Tom Moran and Alan Steinberg, John Van Vliet, Jay Lassiter, people like that, David Cruz. I mean, how can we forget useless journalists like David Cruz? Or Charles Style? Or perennial potheads like Matt Friedman? Or other like do-nothing government employees? We all know, Joe Ameditis over there at Woke State University over in Montclair. Maria Rodriguez also working at Woke State University over in Montclair, as well as like very disingenuous and overly performative elected officials. We all know who they are. Katie Brennan in the state assembly, Robbie Balla in the state assembly, as well as clowns like Joe Quintero and Phil Cohen in Hoboken, as well as other activists here in New Jersey, Caleb Burrell, Lauren Albrecht, Amy Torres, Patty Campos Medina. Folks, there's no shortage of drama queens and, the kings and queens of manufactured outrage and just, those are just fixing on performative politics and performative, tantrums and theatrics in our political scene. And there's a lot of them in New Jersey, but there's also a lot in the country. And it got me thinking, reading the, USA Today over the weekend, and an opinion piece there talked about no King's protest or a colossal waste of time. And that's true. Now, yesterday, as we celebrated the 80th birthday of the 45th and the 47th president, what we've seen is a lot of performative outrage when it comes to these no Kings protests. And by the way, maybe everyone was tired from Saturday night celebrating the New York Knicks' first championship in 53 years, or getting ready for, God help us, the Puerto Rican Day Parade in Manhattan, with, what a disaster that can be sometimes, right? But we didn't see that many no Kings protests, which was supposed to take place on the president's birthday, right? But when you read the opinion piece, obviously there's there's some truth there in the sense that where there isn't a concerted effort there about keeping up this energy. But more importantly, folks, I've been the only journalist in New Jersey to really highlight what a colossal waste of time the no Kings protests are. And I've been consistent about that. I can't say the same for other journalists in New Jersey who just seem to, have a party in their pants and just blow a load on themselves about how important it is about no Kings and, how we have to protect democracy and how we have to, look out for tyranny and the erosion of our civil liberties and the erosion of our republic. Folks, it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. It just is. And I've been the only journalist that's talked about this. And the reason I always look at the No Kings protest as a complete waste of time and utter bullshit, performative bullshit, is because there's an aura and a stink of hypocrisy by those that participate in this bullshit. Okay? And I don't have enough time in the day to name all of the people participating in this performative bullshit here when it comes to No Kings protest, but we've seen them. Here in Hudson County, we've seen parents indoctrinating their kids into woke bullshit. Okay, we've seen the usual cat ladies and feminists and everybody else that, claims to care about democracy and is so concerned about impending fascism. But again, maybe some of you, maybe you're smoking too much weed. Maybe you're taking other substances and maybe your memory's a little foggy. But here on this show, folks, here we got receipts. And while some of you may have a very short memory, the internet doesn't forget, and neither does Fernando Uribe. So one of the things that I look at when it comes to performative outrage, right? We talk about sort of the performative outrage about everyone, so concerned about what happened on the White House lawn yesterday to celebrate the president's birthday. As we all know, his good friend, the president and CEO of Ultimate Fighting, Dana White, decided to host a UFC pay-per-view on the White House lawn. Now, obviously, there's multiple themes here as we quickly approach the 250th birthday of our United States, and also to celebrate the president's 80th birthday. Again, just to be very clear, right? What's interesting about the outrage is, does everybody forget what the White House lawn looked like just a few years ago when the 46th president was in office? Has anyone forgotten about that? I know I haven't. So the same people that go on social media, again, they're all in that collage I mentioned. Talking about, the president is making a mockery of the White House. Really? You want to go there? The same people that saw drag queens dancing, sometimes naked in front of children, right? Men pretending to be women and flashing their fake breast implants on the White House lawn, or employing men pretending to be women in positions within the federal government, right? Is that the same energy we're coming with? You're concerned about the UFC hosting an event on the White House lawn, which, by the way, was completely paid for. Dana White and the UFC, which operates under the umbrella of TKO. As you all know, that's a corporate conglomerate that oversees the UFC and also oversees WWE. And by the way, $60 million was put up by UFC vis-a-vis TKO. And of course, the setup and breakdown of the set, the ring, and everything else that went into was also paid for by the UFC and TKO. So contrary to people in our social media algorithms, whether it's performative propagandists like Matt Solomon here in New Jersey, or other journalists that'll maybe, have some meltdown about this. Folks, again, all I ask is that you be consistent, especially those on the left, progressives, far left radicals. All I ask is that you be consistent. You can object to certain things, but be consistent about your bullshit. The problem is for many progressives and for many on the left, they're not. They have this selective memory. I'm here to remind you that I'm not going to let you get away with your bullshit. That's not who I am. Okay? So if you're going to have this meltdown about what the White House looks like yesterday on the 80th birthday of the 45th and the 47th president of the United States, again, just remember, just a few years ago, we were having drag queens in front of kids. We're having men pretending to be women and playing dress up and make-believe in front of children on the White House lawn. And seeing some really obscene imagery there for everyone in attendance. Now, I get it. If you're a shitty parent and you want to indoctrinate your kids, shame on you. You're an awful parent. And I don't mind calling you out on it. But don't come at me with the bullshit that you're somehow offended about a ring, a UFC ring, being built on the White House lawn. Again, folks, not a single cost to the taxpayer yesterday. The entire bill was put forth by UFC and TKO. But you know what was used for taxpayer dollars? Right? Incessant pride events on the White House lawn, once again, with drag queens in front of children, with men pretending to be women, and other salacious things going on in the White House lawn. By the way, that was paid for with taxpayer dollars. That was a pride event hosted by the White House, by the Biden-Harris administration. Where were far-left influencers in New Jersey? Where was Ravi Bala, who loves to repaint a crosswalk in Hoboken, because he loves his performative bullshit too? Where was he? Where was he during the Biden administration? Oh no, he was too busy in his house, trying to wash out the yellow stains on his collar because, let's be honest, doesn't really take too much pride in his presentation. Or other drama queens and identity hysterics and woke fools that somehow were outraged yesterday, but not outraged during the Biden-Harris administration. Like, again, and we see it in the collage I just mentioned, and we see it at the national level. Whether it's the mainstream establishment liberal media, whether it's academia and higher education, whether it's pop culture, they're all good with all this performative bullshit during the Biden-Harris administration, during the month of June. But you're having a problem about a privately funded event? Folks, if for nothing else, one of the reasons I am infinitely grateful that Donald Trump is the president of the United States right now, as we approach the 250th birthday of these United States. Just imagine a Harris-Walz administration right now as we approach the 4th of July. We would have, God knows, listen, we all know how these ridiculous theatrics were during Pride Month on the White House. So imagine how worse it would have been under Harris and Walz. Just imagine that for a second. Folks, there were some salacious images on the White House lawn during the month of June. Just imagine with, the word salad queen, who'll probably be popping a drink every 2 seconds, and, probably the most effeminate man I've ever seen in my adult life, Tim Walz, hosting events in the White House lawn, apologizing for our history, apologizing for America, and probably more DEI bullshit we'd have to endure as we approach the 250th birthday of these United States. Okay, folks, I'm grateful every day. I don't mind saying it. So again, before you come at me with this performative bullshit about, how outraged you are about what happened yesterday in the White House lawn, you should have been just as equally outraged during the Biden-Harris administration. But let me get back to the no kings bullshit for a second. Where were all the cat ladies? Where were all the feminists? Where were all these social justice clowns and woke fools and all the identity hysterics during the subsequent time we were coming out of COVID? Where was all that energy about the erosion of democracy or tyranny or tyrannical measures by our federal government? Really? Let me ask you something. Where was that energy when servicemen and women in our armed forces were being discharged because they didn't want to get vaccinated? I'm not vaccinated. Okay? And if you want to be vaccinated, that's your business. I don't care. Okay? But don't come at me with theatrics about it. Okay? You want to get 6, 7, 8, 9 boosters? God bless you. I don't subscribe to that bullshit. And not for political reasons, folks. It's because very simply, I remember as I was 17 years old, just about to turn 18 in high school many moons ago. Okay? I remember getting a flu shot because that was imposed on me as I was entering my senior year at good old Memorial High School nearby in West New York, New Jersey. Still one of the best urban high schools in New Jersey. Folks, you never forget the adverse reactions when you take a flu shot. And to this day, I still remember it. And that basically was my modus operandi for not getting vaccinated during COVID. Okay. In addition to that, I can just tell you, because I don't mind saying this out loud, because I'm not saying it for theatrical purposes or to be hysterical. No, I'm telling you because it's true. I've survived trips to Vegas. I've survived trips to Miami. I've survived trips to Atlantic City. I've survived spending nights at the Lincoln Tunnel Motel on Route 1 up here in Hudson County. Okay? And if you've spent nights in the Lincoln Tunnel Motel, you know what I'm talking about. Okay? I've survived spending nights at the Belmar Motor Lodge in Belmar, right off of Route 35. Okay? Taking some ladies home that maybe I shouldn't have, but regardless, I've survived all that. I've survived the drinking water at the water fountains at James J. Braddock Park here in northern Hudson County. Okay? I've survived going to Webster Hall. Okay? Hooking up with girls in the bathrooms at Pasha. Okay? And for those of you that know me, I'm not a germaphobe per se, but let me tell you something. Okay, if I survived all of that, I said I'll survive COVID. I'll be fine. Now, let me be very clear. COVID was a very scary time at the beginning. We didn't know what to make of this. And we know we lost a lot of people because of COVID. And again, my heart still goes out to people because of that. But I remember being vilified for not being vaccinated. I remember being subjected to testing when it came to employment because of draconian, tyrannical measures in blue states like the one I live in here in New Jersey. Okay? So all these cat ladies and all these feminists and all these people walking on No Kings rallies, not so much yesterday, but in the previous ones, and I'm sure there'll be future ones, where was all that energy? Were you calling out tyranny then? No, of course not. Because it didn't suit your narrative. Okay? When it came to police officers and firefighters and EMT workers being discharged from their employment because they didn't get vaccinated, were you okay with that? Were you okay with the fact that maybe you couldn't go dining because you needed a vaccine card? I remember in New York City nearby, after going to see the tree at Rockefeller Center for the first time, because during Christmas time in 2020, New York was really shut down. You couldn't go see the tree. But in December of 2021, I went with my family to go see the tree at Rockefeller Center. And we wanted to go eat dinner at one of our favorite restaurants in New York City, Havana Central. Great spot on West 46th Street between 6th Ave and 7th Ave. Of course, I couldn't go because I didn't have a vaccine card. Even here locally, elected officials like former councilman in Hoboken, Mike DeFusco, was having meltdowns because if you didn't have a vaccine card, you couldn't go eat. You're contributing to something dangerous. The fuck out of here, Michael. That's why I called you out, and I'll still call you out on your bullshit. And everybody else about vaccine cards y toda esa mierda. Please, stop the bullshit. So where was this outrage? Where was this energy about no kings and about tyranny and about democracy disappearing before our eyes? Please, you're all full of shit. And now you want to try to convince me about somehow the erosion of democracy with the imminent threat of tyranny? Who's buying this? We have parents walking with their kids, indoctrinating them into the whole woke bullshit, somehow convincing them that, men can become women. No, they can't. Okay? I will never get a period, thank the Lord. I'll never have a uterus, thank the Lord. Okay? If anything's ever going to come out of me, guess what? Maybe had a really good meal and have to go defecate in the bathroom. That's the only thing popping out of me. Okay? Thankfully, I've never had kidney stones. But as men, those are the only things that are ever going to pop out of us. But somehow there are parents and activists and all the other bullshit. They'll try to tell you otherwise. Don't buy it, folks. And don't buy the no kings nonsense. And don't buy the performative outrage and the manufactured hysteria about what happened at the White House lawn yesterday. Because if this didn't insult your intelligence, if this didn't offend you and get you worried about what kids are exposed to, if what happened during COVID, especially in blue states like New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and others, we couldn't even go out to have a meal because if you didn't have a vaccine card, oh well, that's not possible. Oh, we need to vilify Fernando Uribe because he didn't want to get vaccinated. We want to deny him the right to go eat. Folks, come at me with consistency. Don't come at me with bullshit. And I'm sure there'll be more No Kings rallies in the immediate future, and that's fine. But do me a favor. Show me that same energy that you were supposed to have during COVID, when people like myself and others are being vilified for not being vaccinated. So we couldn't go out and eat, or maybe we should have lost our jobs, or we had to maybe go get tested on our dollar because somehow you want to live in this manufactured hysteria. I'm not buying it, folks. So a lot of the theatrical nonsense you see at No Kings rallies is exactly that, theatrical nonsense. Because if you were serious about your rights being infringed upon, if you were serious about, hey, tyranny and tyrannical measures being taken by government, if that should have concerned you back then, and so supposedly now it concerns you, it's bullshit. You're all full of shit. And I don't mind calling you out on it. I'll continue to do that because, again, folks, unlike other journalists in New Jersey, see, what I do on this show is practice something very foreign to a lot of the journalists that I like to, roast on this program. A lot of the theatrical activists in New Jersey, a lot of the do-nothing, apple-picking, paper-pushing government employees would like to let you know about on their social media, or elected officials with some of their performative bullshit. No, folks, see, what I have is something that many of them do not have. And you know what that is? Wait for it. It's a pesky 4-syllable word. Integrity. So you're going to come at me about everything I just mentioned about what offends you. Trust me when I tell you, folks, these people didn't have that same energy in the last few years. And that's why I don't take him seriously. I didn't take him seriously then, and I don't take him seriously now. That's the difference between children and adults. I'll be the adult. I'll keep laughing at the children because we're not the same. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, a special comment here tonight. It's a few I want to get off my chest. Let me start off by saying, first of all, as you can see, I'm rocking it here, having participated in the Act Now Foundation 5K run this past Saturday at Lincoln Park in Jersey City. Got to catch up with some good people. Shout out to Christine Allen and Carrie Lopez, those that head up the Act Now Foundation. More on them in a minute. But nice to run into certain people. As you can see there behind me, the general manager of Insider NJ, Pete Onelia. And certainly in years past, we had our problems. But let me tell you something. One of the most fulfilling things I did last year, and I've talked about this, folks, as we get older, it's important to make peace with certain people when you can. Now, listen, there are some people who will have, irreconcilable differences, and we're never going to get along. And I get that. But when you can make peace with people, folks, again, that's part of growth. That's part of maturity. That's part of intellectual growth, emotional growth. When you can make peace with certain people, do that. Because if there's anything that, let's be honest, COVID taught us, right? What COVID taught us was make peace with people. I've lost a lot of classmates for different reasons. Substance abuse, mental health. More on that later. Okay? COVID or anything else. So I learned the hard way that, hey, the opportunity arises to go and make peace with people, go do that. And I was happy to do that last November at the League of Municipalities with Pete O'Nelia. And for those of you that know, obviously, I was working with Insider NJ many years ago. Okay, I enjoyed hosting a podcast, which won awards, by the way, Politically Direct with Fernando Uribe via Insider NJ. And it's a good podcast. Got traffic, got views, got recognition. But one of the things I enjoy about the League of Municipalities is obviously, besides being Fernando and going to open bar parties and mixers and pissing people off, which I've done for a very, very long time. But one of the things that just felt right was to make peace with Pete last year at the Insider Party inside the Tropicana Casino Hotel at the Cuba Libre restaurant. And we're men and we talked, we shook hands. We both admit we could have done things differently, but that's what maturity is about. I was happy to give him a hug and shake his hand and say, hey, man, I don't got a problem with you anymore. Pete was happy to oblige the same. Now, did I promise him again? And I had, I'd taken some liberties and directed some jokes at the expense of Pete over the years after our falling out a few years back with Insider NJ. But I made it a point to say, Pete, my problem isn't with you. My problem is like with the other incompetent people, like, fucking retards like Max Pizarro, the editor-in-chief, Prince Valiant. Folks, watch Spaceballs and check out Max Pizarro next time you see him on TV. It's the same haircut. Trust me when I tell you. Or other useless people like Jay Lassiter, who, let's be honest, does he even work anymore? Lighting up a bong and smoking weed all day. That's not really work, but again, that's subjective. Or other people like Alan Steinberg or John Van Vliet with their bullshit columns. Again, shout out to Fred Snowflake, who I still love, man, and adore. He's a worker. So I'm happy to never roast Fred Snowflake. As far as the other retards, yeah, no, I mean, I don't got a problem roasting these idiots. But someone I'm happy to not roast because he is a good guy. And that's Pete O'Nelia, who happens to be on the executive board of the Act Now Foundation, who is an exceptional local organization, folks, that does a great job in helping local families struggling with dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Now, these are two conditions that still have no cure. And unfortunately, it seems like there isn't a cure anywhere in sight, and that's tragic. And I'm not much of a runner. I'll run. But you know what, folks? It wasn't about just getting this. No. Because you can run and not get anything. But it's about doing the right thing and helping families and help raise awareness about Alzheimer's and dementia. Okay? As we know, it's a disease that ravages families, not just in Hudson County, but throughout New Jersey and throughout the country. But again, shout out to Christine and Carrie for the good work that they do with the Act Now Foundation. Very much like I love volunteering for Alzheimer's New Jersey and working with their president and CEO, Ken Zanes, and their great executive board. Folks, whenever there's an opportunity to raise awareness about Alzheimer's and dementia, I'm your guy. I'm going to do that. Because I get it for all the scorn and vitriol that yours truly gets on this program. And I get it, whether it's my incredible good looks or my brand of exceptional opinion journalism. I get it. Someone told me a long time ago, if you try to please everyone, you'll please no one. But I have my audience. I have my fans. And besides being an award-winning journalist, besides being an academic and educator, folks, one of the things I take considerable pride in is being a philanthropist and donating my time to causes that matter. As you know, I dedicate a lot of time and effort every spring for Alzheimer's awareness and I've done it before for the Act Now Foundation and also for Alzheimer's New Jersey. As you know, I am very dedicated during the fall for the American Cancer Society. So for all the local idiots that want to talk about, well, Fernando Uribe is a misogynist and Fernando Uribe hates women. No, I don't hate women. I'm not a misogynist. I do more for women and families than a lot of you people out there. See, that's the difference between you and I. I'm not afraid to say it. And while you'll be at home on your smartphones clicking away and writing, yeah, that's cool, I'm actually doing. Okay? Unlike a lot of my haters at home who are just home playing with their dicks, like I'm actually out doing stuff for the community. Okay? I'm actually out making a difference in the lives of women and families. I was happy to do that. It was great to catch up with Pete, talk politics, talk shop, as they say, talk about what's going on. It was a great conversation, and I was happy to see him this past Saturday at Lincoln Park in Jersey City for the Act Now Foundation 5K run. And again, as I mentioned just a few moments ago, a shout out to these great ladies here, to Christine Allen and Carrie Lopez, who worked so hard in the face of adversity, in the face of potential budget cuts, when it comes to grants and everything else. These two ladies do an exceptional job with the Act Now Foundation. And folks, if you're interested in donating your time or any disposable income, please consider doing so by going to www.actnowfoundation.org. You'll find resources and other pertinent information if you or loved ones that you know are dealing with Alzheimer's and or dementia. Once again, that's www.actnowfoundation.org. You can donate. Again, all of your donations online, folks, are safe, secure, and tax deductible. Now, yes, just as a matter of record, yes, folks, I finished it in about 50 minutes, and that's okay. I'm not doing it for times. I'm not doing it to win these medals and how fast I can do a 5K run. No, folks, the important thing is to do it. Get out there. And the important thing, folks, as we get older, is to try new things and to do new things. That's what keeps us young. And I was proud to do that. And to show my support for the Act Now Foundation. So shout out to these great ladies and all the great stuff that they do to help families right here in Hudson County that are dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. And to everyone else on the executive board of the Act Now Foundation, shout out to all you. Again, I'm going to give you your flowers. Keep up the good work, keep up the awareness, and keep fighting out there for everybody. Good stuff there. Again, I also had the opportunity after finishing my 5K run to talk to my representative in the House, Rob Menendez, here in the 8th Congressional District where I live. And while Rob and I disagree on almost everything ideologically, we're friends. And that's the important thing, is about keeping friendships and being civil, even if we disagree with each other. We can do that. And I appreciate the kind words the representative in the 8th Congressional District bestowed upon me after crossing the finish line. So thank you to him, and thank you to everybody that participated, ran, and helped raise awareness and help make a difference in raising money and helping provide resources for families that are dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia here in Hudson County. Again, folks, please visit www.actnowfoundation.org. If you wish to get involved or donate, once again, your donations are safe, secure, and tax deductible via the Act Now Foundation. So let's keep raising awareness. Let's keep fighting for those that can't fight right now. And more importantly, let's keep making a difference in the lives of local families that are dealing with these dreaded diseases. I'm proud to run for them. I'll continue running to raise awareness for Alzheimer's and dementia. Folks, also, as a reminder, and yes, as you can see there, yep, proud to rock the medal there. And as you know, also making sure that I'm representing Cowboy Nation, as you can see there. Always proud to do that. On a nice summer day in Lincoln Park, running and raising awareness and really volunteering for important causes is something we should all be doing, folks. I'm proud to do that here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Moving along, folks, as a reminder, June is still Men's National Mental Health Awareness Month. And this is something I can get behind during the month of June. Okay, not some other woke bullshit. No, this is stuff that I consider to be really important because you know what, folks? Men's mental health doesn't get the recognition or the spotlight it should. And yesterday on June 14th, yeah, I was happy and proud to celebrate the 45th and 47th president's birthday. He turned 80 yesterday. But unfortunately, yesterday would have been the 42nd birthday of my good friend David Quisenbing, affectionately known as DQ to so many in New Jersey nightlife. Whether it was Green Rock in Hoboken, whether it was Chris Michaels in Woodbridge, or Bar A in Belmar, New Jersey. Tragically, last month, David Quisenbing took his life and left behind an incredible legacy of being a wonderful human being, just an outstanding citizen, and most importantly, just a regular, down-to-earth guy. I had the privilege of knowing David for many years. And if you or someone you love is struggling with mental health, remember that we want you here. We want you to stay here with us. Please seek help. There's so many, folks, there is no shortage of resources available for everyone out there. And if you're struggling, trust me, you don't have to be alone. Talk to family, talk to friends, talk to professionals. Now more than ever, folks, you can seek mental health with just your smartphone. And many mental health professionals do work with your insurance companies. And even if you don't have insurance, they will find a way to work with you because we understand that mental health is important. Let's rededicate our efforts and our energy in David's memory to making sure that, you know what, everyone matters. It doesn't cost anything just to be a little nice to people. And I know we're going to say, wow, that's rich coming from Fernando Uribe. Yeah, folks, guess what? Who you see on TV and who you know outside of TV are two different things. And for people that know me, yeah, I'll put my integrity up against anybody. When I say that your life matters, that you should be here, you need to be here. And during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, here in the month of June, I'm proud to raise awareness, not just in David's memory, but for everyone struggling. Folks, we've all had bad days. Maybe we've all been depressed. But it's important to talk to someone, family, friends, a mental health professional. Please get the help you need. Please stay with us. Please do everything you possibly can for your friends and family to remain here with us. And if you all have to battle it together, we'll all battle it together and we'll unite in solidarity for those that are struggling. Now more than ever, let's do that. Let's do that in David Quisenbing's memory. Not just during the month of June, during Men's National Mental Health Awareness Month, but every day of the year. We miss you, David. We miss everyone that we've lost because of mental health. Please, do everything you can. Be in someone's corner. If you have to be that late night phone call because someone's struggling, take that phone call. Give that extra hug. Say that extra I love you, whether it's on text or email, in person, or on a phone call. Do that, folks. It makes an enormous difference. Let's make that effort in David Quisenbing's name. I know I will, and I hope you will too. Folks, before we call it a night here, again, what can I say? 53 years is what the city of New York had to wait to see the New York Knicks win an NBA championship. Not since the days of Richard Nixon as president. Not since the days of the rise of the Oakland Athletics in Major League Baseball. Folks, June of 1973. I wasn't even born, and a lot of you weren't born either. It was the last time many of you saw the New York Knicks win the NBA Finals. And we saw that this past Saturday night in San Antonio when the Knicks decisively won 4-1 in the NBA Finals to secure the franchise's third championship. And for a lot of us that, hey, I grew up a Knicks fan, as many of us did. And sure, my basketball fandom has evolved over the years. That's fine. But I remember the heartbreak of 1994. I remember the heartbreak of 1999. and to see the joy and the jubilation of so many Knicks fans in San Antonio in that building, for the millions of New Yorkers flooding the streets in Manhattan, in Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Staten Island, New Jersey. Folks, it was a special moment this past Saturday night. Shout out to Marcelo, the management, and the staff at the Highwood in Weehawken, New Jersey, being there. Shout out to Israel Nieves, retired Jersey City police officer and council candidate and a big Knicks fan all to his own. What a great crowd at the Highwood in Weehawken, folks. And if you're looking for a great nightlife destination right near a light rail stop, the Port Imperial stop, right near a ferry terminal, plenty of parking located inside. Folks, the Highwood in Weehawken, New Jersey is a destination in nightlife that you don't want to miss. It was a lively crowd, a good-looking crowd, by the way, too. But let me tell you, appreciate you being able to get in along with my production assistant, as you can see there. But what a great venue, what a great vibe, what a great atmosphere this past Saturday at the Highwood in Weehawken, New Jersey, as the New York Knicks won the NBA championship. Folks, historic indeed. Folks, before we call it a night here again, just want to send a reminder. You've seen it on social media. Again, as a reminder, and folks, what an iconic photo. Back in 1973, to see the captain, Walt Clyde Frazier, along with Bill Bradley and Dave DeBusschere and Willis Reed, as they beat the Lakers at Madison Square Garden. What an iconic way to replicate that historic picture. Congratulations to the captain, Jalen Brunson, to Karl Anthony Towns, to Josh Hart, to Mikal Bridges, to OG Anunoby. Folks, maybe not the best team on paper, but they were a team. They played together and they won together. For all the talk about Jalen Brunson not being big enough, not being tough enough, folks, all those questions were answered last Saturday, as Jalen Brunson gave the performance of a lifetime in a closing game of the NBA Finals to win the Bill Russell NBA Finals Most Valuable Player Award. Historic moment, folks. An historic picture. An historic day for everyone in northern New Jersey, in New York, in Connecticut, anywhere across the U.S. For our fan base, our roots, for the New York Knickerbockers. Congratulations to the New York Knicks on winning the 2026 NBA Finals. I'm sure I'll see many of you this Thursday in Manhattan for the parade. And where else would you want to be on Thursday, if not in the Canyon of Heroes? Folks, special reminder here, and I do want to give a special thank you to Duran Entities for partnering now with Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV and Fernando Uribe Media. Again, folks, we are in the middle of World Cup fever here in New Jersey and all across the United States, in Canada, and in Mexico. If you want to find a spot to watch all the great World Cup action, folks, do so at Son Cubano. Great watch parties located at 40-4 Riverwalk Place along the waterfront in Westchester, New Jersey. You can catch watch parties throughout the month of June going to July in the World Cup final as well. Folks, catch it at Son Cubano in West New York. You can also catch it at Ventanas, 200 Park Avenue in Fort Lee. Nearby parking is available. Valet parking is available at both venues, folks, as well as at Solas in downtown Jersey City. Once again, folks, I can't say enough what a privilege it is with all the great festivities during the World Cup. And again, great theme nights at Son Cubano. Happy hour is every day at Son Cubano in West New York. And of course, folks, we have great wine tastings. Great event coming up on Friday, June the 26th at 6 p.m. Only $50 a person to enjoy wines on the waterfront, courtesy of Son Cubano at 40-4 Riverwalk Place in West New York, New Jersey. Again, folks, I can't say enough what a privilege it is to partner with Duran Entities here on Real Talk. For more on that, quick message from one of our sponsors.
Duran Entities has now joined Real Talk with Fernando Uribe and Fernando Uribe Media. Enjoy delicious food, excellent watch parties, and a wonderful atmosphere at any of our 3 incredible restaurants. Son Cubano, located at 40-4 Riverwalk Place in West Newark, New Jersey. Ventanas at the Modern, located at 200 Park Avenue in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And Solas, located at 25 River Drive South in downtown Jersey City. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you there.
That's right, folks. Yes. Real Talk is proud to partner with Duran Entities, Son Cubano, Ventanas at the Modern, and the Solas Experience in Jersey City. 3 great restaurants, 3 great venues, great crowds, great food, and a great atmosphere. You could rely on Duran Entities to provide all that and much more. You can please visit their social media and, of course, visit their websites for opening and closures and, of course, their menus and all the great stuff you can expect at Son Cubano, Ventanas at the Modern, and Experience Solas in Jersey City. Thank you to them for sponsoring Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV and Fernando Uribe Media. And that's our show for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I want to thank 5th Congressional District Representative Josh Gottheimer for joining us today. He's always on the go, very busy, but we really appreciate a few minutes of his time here today. If you missed any part of the broadcast, folks, take a few seconds. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode here on Real Talk. And, of course, make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, as well as also, if you download our podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, you can check out Real Talk with Fernando Uribe live every Monday, of course. Check your local listings for start times here on the Jersey First Television Network. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, always remember it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid. It's Real Talk right here with the Jersey First TV. I'm here to inform, I'm here to enlighten, entertain, and even irritate here every week on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am the generational talent in Garden State Media, and certainly your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It's the most handsome face that runs the place. It's me, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, folks. Please party responsibly. Enjoy the FIFA World Cup. And, folks, again, a lot of great stuff coming up in June. Here, as next week, next Monday, we'll have the director of the Uribe Institute for New Jersey Politics, Micah Rasmussen from Rider University, joins us live next Monday here on Real Talk. Folks, enjoy the rest of your week. And certainly, let's go Knicks. I'll see you all this Thursday at the parade and the Canyon of Heroes. Folks, enjoy the rest of your week. And once again, thanks for stopping by and stay classy, everyone.